G'day and welcome to Goalless Tabletop, where everyone's welcome. Well, almost. This video was something that I've wanted to make for a long time because I love playing monks. The thing is, they're kind of one of, if not the worst classes in the game. So I've come up with a few fixes over the years that I think improve things somewhat. And with the new edition or iteration, or whatever we're calling it, in the playtest stages, I thought, yeah, let's have this as something for tables that stick with 5e, something they can use to help their monk players, or even as a bit of a wish list for the next version of the class. So as we think about fixing the monk, let's start off by having a quick look at what we're dealing with here. So with that in mind, I've brought up the D&D Beyond page for the class, and we're just going to have a quick look through it. We're going to start by skipping all the flavor text and all that, which is right here, all of that, and we'll go straight to the class features. So we have our hit points, which are D8 per level. First level, that's 8 plus con. Okay. The points at higher levels are 1d8 or 5 plus your constitution modifier for every monk level after the first one, as you can see there. Now, the problem with that is, we'll start seeing it a bit later on, but for the kind of role that we need to do and the tools we're given to do it, that's not really enough. So that's the first thing that we'll put a pin in for now. And move on to the proficiencies. We have no armor, which also leads to some other issues, and we'll go through that a little bit later as well. Our weapons, simple weapons and short swords. Not a lot of options there if you go have a look through the simple weapons themselves. There's not many good options, especially for range. You'll notice that we're a bit short on ranged options. For tools, we can pick one type of artisan's tools or musical instrument. Limited use, depending if we're using the crafting and tool proficiency things from Xanathars or not. Still, yeah, we'll stick with those for now. Our saving throws are strength and dexterity, which are not fantastic. There's no mental stat save, and a lot of the really nasty things are on those. So your intelligence saves, your wisdom saves, and your charisma saves, especially considering that charisma is going to likely be a dump stat for you, can be a bit of a problem. But hey, with dexterity we're covered, and with strength we're covered, so something, I guess. Our skills: acrobatics, athletics, history, insight, religion, and stealth. So we can go do some scouting, we can figure out if people are lying or get extra information from them, which gives us something during social interactions, even though we're not going to be the face. Athletics means we can grapple, and acrobatics means we can balance and do flips. So yeah, I guess if you want to do a flip, go acrobatics. Now, our equipment. We start off traveling real light because chances are the stuff in your background is not going to be particularly heavy. We start off with a short sword or any simple weapon, usually a quarterstaff. Quarterstaff is a good option. You can have a D8 starting off, and you can't carry a shield, so quarterstaff, 2 hands. You can always take a hand off the quarterstaff to punch or grab or whatever. Also, you have feet, so your unarmed strikes are fine there. Got a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack. I think an Explorer's pack is pretty good because it has bedding and such in it. And 10 darts. For the most part, darts are going to be our main ranged option, and they're not very good. If at any point you can steal a short bow or a light crossbow and some ammo, you should probably be doing that. So, unarmored defense. Our AC is 10 plus dexterity modifier plus wisdom modifier. That means that, assuming a point buy or standard array, you'll be starting off with about a 15 or a 16. Which is not great, but it's probably better than the sorcerer has, unless they are casting mage armor. Which again, they can do, and we can't. But you'll notice that it maxes out at about 20, which the fighter and the paladin, and to a lesser extent, and possibly the cleric, I should say, they're probably going to get that pretty much as soon as they can afford base plate armor and a non-magical shield. And they have a lot more choices in terms of magical armors and magical shields and items and such, which monks just really don't have. So, martial arts. The important things here are you gain the following benefits while unarmored, or wielding only while unarmed, or wielding only monk weapons and aren't wearing armor or wielding a shield. So the second that you are wearing armor or using a shield, you can't use any of this. Arguably, you might not be able to use anything else, but definitely you can't use this. You can use dexterity instead of strength for attack and damage rolls of unarmed strikes and monk weapons. This doesn't give your unarmed strikes the finesse property, so there's no sneak attack here. In case you were thinking of getting in some rogue levels to boost your damage a little bit. Unfortunately, that's no go unless you're using a short sword, which is an option. You can roll a d4 in place of the normal damage of your unarmed strike or monk weapon. It changes as you gain monk levels, as per the column of the monk table. So let's just go back up. Let's scroll back up to that really quickly. Yeah, told you it was quick. So we start off at a d4. By level 5, we're at a d6. 11, we're at a d8. And 17th, we're at a d10. Notice that when we get up to a d6, the fighter gets a whole extra attack. At least our thing goes up. Rogues also have 3d6 sneak attack by now. We get our next bump at 11th, roughly when the fighter gets their third attack. And we get to a d10 at 17th, which is when we get our capstone for our subclass. So that's a lot of. So you're going to get a lot of use out of that quarterstaff. So we go back to where we were. Compared to the monsters of the multiverse, races with natural weapons like claws and bites and whatnot, they're generally a d6 or a d8 in case of Hungry Jaws for the lizard folk, I think. So it's much worse than that. I'm hoping that the martial arts feature and also Tavern Brawler will get addressed in the next edition or iteration or whatever we want to call it. However, they did keep Tavern Brawler at d4, so that's not encouraging. But I do hope that between changing the natural weapons and also having the unarmed fighting style, which gives us the d6, I'm hoping that Tavern Brawler and martial arts will end up coming up to d6 as well. It's also a good way of bumping up the damage, which might not be great at the moment. Also, we can make an unarmed strike as a bonus action when we attack with an unarmed strike or monk weapon on our turn. We smack someone with a quarterstaff, we can also kick them in the nuts, or equivalent. Just goes on a little bit about reflavoring weapons into more monk weapons. So nunchucks being a club, nunchucks suck, so I don't know why you'd want to do that. Moving on to level 2, so we get our key points. We get our first 3 abilities, which is Flurry of Blows, and we'll go into that in a sec, Patient Defense, and Step of the Wind. We'll get more features as we go, so that's a lot of key. We get 1 key point per level, starting at 2nd level, meaning we have 2. Immediately you'll start to see the problem. We have 3 options. We have 2 key points. Some of the features we'll get have a save, which is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your wisdom modifier, which is likely going to go up a lot slower than your dexterity. Unless you're playing a certain subclass, which is Astral Self, you'll likely be doing your dex instead of your wisdom modifier. So Flurry of Blows. Immediately after taking the attack action on your turn, you can spend a key point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action, instead of the 1 that standard martial arts gives us. Most of our damage is going to come from using Flurry. Patient Defense. You give up most of your damage to take the dodge action as a bonus action. That costs key points. That's going to be a thing that would help our survivability. So we've got to Step on the Wind. 1 key point to disengage or dash. And double the jump distance. Now, we're one of the few classes that might actually be able to take advantage of jump distance in general, never mind doubling it for the turn. We end up with a total of, going back up to the table here, we go up to plus 30 feet at level 18. Twice as fast as any other class of the same race. Possibly even more than that if we're using one of the smaller ones. Oops, we go a little bit too far. Also, at level 2, we start getting our unarmored movement. Our speed increases while not wearing armor or a shield. And it increases as per the table we just saw. At 9th level, we can run up walls and across liquids, but we do need to be on solid, horizontal ground by the end of the turn. Otherwise, bloop, you sink. At 3rd level, we get our subclass. It just goes, we get them at 3rd, 6th, 11th, and 17th. Nothing wrong with that. That's fairly standard. At least we don't have to wait as long for that second one as the rogue does. Or the fighter, even. Deflect missiles. So this is a really fun ability, assuming your DM likes to shoot your monks. Starting at 3rd level, you can deflect or catch an arrow or a bullet. You reduce the attack by 1d10 plus your dex modifier plus your monk level. That's actually not too bad. We won't need to change this all that much. Between the d10, your dex modifier, which is going to increase as you go, and your monk level, which obviously increases as you do monk levels, you're going to reduce a lot of damage this way. If you reduce the damage to 0, you can catch the arrow or the bullet or whatever, if you can hold it in one hand, and if you have one hand free, which again is easy to do. If you catch it, you can spend 1 key point, there's that phrase again, to make a ranged attack with that weapon the weapon or piece of ammunition you just caught as part of that same reaction. And you always have proficiency regardless of your proficiencies. And it counts as a monk weapon, which means it goes up as per that table just before. But it has a normal range of 20 feet and a long range of 60 feet, so it's basically a dart. Except darts aren't technically monk weapons. It's weird that way. Still, it's better than nothing, I guess. ASIs. Now, everyone gets these. A fighter and rogue get a few more. Notice that we need our dexterity and our wisdom to keep going up as we go. We're probably going to be doing, again, this is unless we're playing Astral Self, in which case it's going to be reversed. So we're going to +2 into dex, +2 into dex. Likely we've hit dexterity 20 by this point. At 12th we go wisdom, so we should hit 18. At 16th we go wisdom again, so we should have hit 20 in wisdom by now. And then we have 1 more ASI for a feat or ability score improvement bump. Doesn't give us a lot of space to take feats or increase ability scores that aren't dex or wisdom if there's no feats. So that's going to be a bit of a problem for us. But at 4th level we also get Slowfall, where we use the reaction, but no key points thankfully, to reduce falling damage by 5 times our level. So it's going to be 20 at this point, and it's going to max out at 100. So you can fall a little further and be fine. Extra attack, at 5th level, we can attack twice on our main attack action. So we can smack with the quarterstaff, and then if we have the key points for it, we can smack with our fists. Also in Stunning Strike, also at 5th level, we get our Stunning Strike, which means that we can spend a key point to try and stun someone when we hit them with a weapon attack or an unarmed strike, I presume. They have to make a Constitution saving throw or be stunned until the end of our next turn. The thing about this is that a lot of the creatures, especially like monstrosities and the like, are going to have really good cons, either a really good con score or really good con saves. So our stun isn't going to go off a lot unless we're using it against humanoid casters, and even then, some humanoid enemies are going to have decent con saves as well. Also, you should notice that you spend 1 key point per hit to attempt a Stunning Strike. Which means that if we attacked, used Flurry of Blows, hit every single attack, and then use Stunning Strike on all of them, you can use up your entire key points at this stage in a single round. Not counting the use of any subclass features, or any of the optionals, which we'll probably go through a little bit later as well. 6th level, we get our Key and Power Strikes. Our unarmed strikes count as magical, for the purposes of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. That's fine. We kind of need that. We don't get a chance to use weapons. At 6th level, we get another speed bonus. We also get our second subclass feature. Evasion, which we share with Rose, we get at level 7. Basically, anytime we make a dex save, even if we fail, we take half damage. If we succeed, we take no damage. This is decent. It's one of the more defensive things that we get. Stillness of Mind. Now, some people will tell you that this doesn't work because some Charmed or Frightened spell effects tell you that you need to use your action to make certain actions, such as dodge or dash. Now, because specific beats general, this feature gives us a new option in that particular case. The problem is, it needs to be written here, and it isn't. So we also need to put a pin in that. Moving on to 9th level, we get the ability to run up walls and across rivers, which we covered before. Very fun. 10th level, we get immunity to disease and poison, which is fun. Mind you, diseases are kind of an optional rule from the DMG that you might not be using, but it's nice to have. Paladins get that too, but they get it a lot sooner. And we also get another speed bonus at this point. Ours is plus 20 feet. Huzzah! So, all spoken languages, and anything that can understand a language can understand what you say to it. That's a fun little ribbon feature, and it's basically just a ribbon because it doesn't do anything mechanical for the most part. And we're not going to be the face. We are probably not set up to do this sort of thing. But if no one else can talk to a creature, sure. At 14th level, we get proficiency in all saves. And if we fail, we can re-roll using a key point. Been a while since we've had a core feature that's used it. Stunning Strike at 5th was the last one. But our subclass features are probably going to have key points, and some of them are very thirsty. However, the subclasses need separate reworks, so we'll kind of maybe go through that in a little bit. Alongside Diamond Soul, we also get another 5 feet of bonus speed, up to 25 feet now. Timeless Body. Again, very much a ribbon. Until you come across a Sphinx of some sort, because you can't be aged magically. And that's really only a thing that Sphinxes do. Maybe a few other creatures will do that. Maybe your DM will have homebrewed something that does that. You can't be aged magically. You don't need to worry about that. You might still die of old age, though. However, until then, you don't need to eat or drink. You do still need to breathe, though, if you already needed to do that. 18th level gives us Empty Body. We've skipped over the subclass feature. So you spend 4 key points to become invisible for a minute, and you have resistance to all damage except force damage. I mean, the wizard could have been invisible since, what, level 2? Sorry, since level 5? Maybe level 3? But they don't get all these resistances while they do it. Additionally, we can spend a whole whack of key points to cast Astral Projection, which is a 9th level spell. So, I mean, at least they didn't have it as 1 key point per level. You don't need material components, but you can only go by yourself. Alright, so 18th, we also get a final increase to our unarmored movement bonus for 30 feet. We still can't be wearing armor or wielding a shield. And now for the capstone at 20th level. When you roll for initiative and have no key points remaining, you regain 4 of them. Sorcerers do this, bards do this, and the Battlemaster Fighter subclass does something similar as well. 4 key points isn't going to get us very far. I mean, that's one use of the first feature of Empty Body and done. So that we can put another pin in that, I think. All in all these sound great. And while they're on paper, and while some of them are fun in practice, they're not great in practice. I mean, we are spending 4 of our 5 ASIs to get the same AC as a paladin in plate and shield. And they have magical plate and shield at this point, so we've maybe got a cloak of protection, a ring of protection, and braces of defense, which, by the way, is, I think, our total attunement. Pretty much sunk into that. Anyway, let's go into the optional class features. So we've got dedicated weapon. So instead of just using simple melee weapons and short swords, we can pick up certain weapons, focus on them, and make them monk weapons. It must be simple or martial, we must be proficient with it in the first place, and it can't be heavy or special. So no glaives, no great axes, anything like that. Also no longbows. Bit of a shame, that. Key field attack at 3rd level, so around about the same point we got deflect missiles. And our subclass. We spend 1 key point or more, we can make 1 attack with an unarmed strike or monk weapon as a bonus action before the end of the turn. It's not nothing, but it does get rid of that old thing where we had to use our action for something else, and now we can't really do much with our bonus action. Assuming we spent a key point for something. Which means a bit later on, we get Stillness of Mind, we use that, and then... Oh no, wait, we can't, because it's not a key point. You're starting to see the limited thing of this. However, Quickened Healing gives us, at 4th level, when we got our ASI, and our Slow Fall, we get something to spend our key on as an action. It's not an attack. You can spend 2 key points and roll a martial arts die. You regain a number of hit points rolled, plus proficiency bonus. And key field attack. Focused aim, when you miss an attack roll. You can spend 1 to 3 key points to increase your attack roll by 2 for each key point, potentially turning a miss into a hit. So that's basically saying between 2 and 6 key points. Sorry, that's a +2 to a +6, depending on how much we spend. Also means that key field attack comes into it again. And that's it with what's there. With all of that in mind, let's have a bit of a summary of all of the issues that we've identified with the class so far, or at the very least, the main ones. To start off with, we have our low HP. We're essentially a frontline marshal who's going to be frontline, skirmishing or no. We're not going to be able to move around forever, so our hit points is really going to be an issue for us. Again, we're mostly melee, and we have poor melee and ranged weapon options. We've got poor defenses at early to mid levels. We've got poor item selection, both magical and mundane. We have low damage output. We have a restrictive resource. We're multiple ability dependent, which means we rely on our dexterity, wisdom, and constitution, and we don't really have anything that can compensate for that, like a ranger or a paladin does. They can wear armor at least. Our ribbons are super ribbony. Our capstone is terrible. It does basically nothing. And our optional features don't really fix anything. In fact, they make our restrictive resource issues even worse. So let's have a look at how we might fix all of these issues now that we've got them summarized. So right now we're looking at the Word document version of our monk revisions. You'll notice that the first version here is we will be putting in some improvements, and we keep the key point system. We're just going to take key points away from certain features so that it's not quite so costly to do basic monk things. I haven't recreated the fluff here, so we can just go straight into the class features. 1d10 per monk level, meaning we get 10 plus constitution modifier if monk is our first level. Hit points at higher level is 1d10 or 6 if you're taking the average, plus con mod per monk level after the first level. Standard stuff for a marshal like us. We were the only marshal with extra attack in our core class features that had less than a d10. Now we're back in line with fighters, rangers, and paladins. And barbarian still gets to be a d12 still. Pays the tough tax a little bit, and it means we can take more of a licking and keep on ticking. Anyway, proficiencies. Armor we've kept because that's thematic, so we're not changing that. We're just going to work around it a little bit later. Weapons are simple weapons and short swords as before, but we've added improvised weapons and one martial weapon of your choice, which becomes a monk weapon for you. There's no limit on that. That could be a longbow or a glaive or whatever. Tools are unchanged, saving throws are unchanged. Almost added a mental stat in there, but didn't really see the need to change it that much. Our skills are also the same. As far as equipment goes, we're still traveling light, relatively speaking, although there is going to be more to this now. So in addition to the stuff that our background gives us, we have a short sword or any simple weapon, a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack, 10 darts or 20 pieces of ammunition. So this was so that our simple weapon could be something like a light crossbow, or the martial weapon we choose to be proficient with before we then get. If we pick like a longbow or a heavy crossbow, we can just say that we have the ammunition for that already, and we all good. Unarmored defense. So the initial version is unchanged. We've kept it at 10 plus dex mod plus wisdom mod, which is fine. At 10th level, though, we're adding in this. Basically, you can add half your proficiency bonus to your armor class. That's somewhere between 1 and 3 on top of your AC, which isn't much, but it's better than what we had before. We also get martial arts. just got the fluff here. We've added our improvised weapons and the simpler martial weapon of your choice onto there. As for the benefits you get, the first point is unchanged. It's still strength or dex for attack and damage rolls. You can roll a d6 instead of a d4 in place of the normal damage of unarmed strike or monk weapons, and it changes as you gain monk levels, basically at the same rate it did before. I haven't replicated the table, but you would see it go from d6 to d8 at level 5, and then to d10 at level 11, and then d12 at level 17, I think it was. So you can just punch things real hard. Also, the bonus action attack part is unchanged, except immediately after that we have at 11th level, you can make 2 unarmed strikes instead of 1 when you use your martial arts feature. If you use Flurry of Blows, you can make 3 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. Now, the reason I've put the 11th level version on the bonus action instead of just giving monks extra attack 2 was a balancing thing. So if we add too much so that things start getting a bit nuts, we can just say that, hey, the extra attacks go on the bonus action, which you might not even be using. Because you can also, as you'll see soon, you'll be able to dash, dodge, or disengage on top of any other bonus action ability that the subclasses will give you. So it's a balancing thing. I left this in here because of laziness. Just ignore all of that. Starting at 2nd level, so we've got a bit of fluff about key, a bit more about key. Just talks about Flurry of Blows, and it doesn't even do that. So we go to the key save calculation, which we've changed to 8 plus proficiency bonus plus your dexterity or wisdom modifier. That way you don't need to feel so bad about rushing wisdom, and you don't get shortchanged if you're not doing that. Although if you're an astral self monk, you can just go, okay, wisdom, and then as normal. So a little bit about Flurry of Blows. No, don't mind the formatting there. Patient defense is you can take the dodge action as a bonus action on your turn. Now that sounds really good. What that does is that'll give disadvantage on any attacks coming in until your next turn. But the thing about that is, when is dodging better than either pressing the attack and making sure that or at least trying to make sure that the enemy isn't there anymore, or just not being there yourself anymore? Because we also changed Step of the Wind to be similar. You can take the disengage or dash actions as a bonus action on your turn all of the time. So that dodge action does become less powerful because you can just simply not be there. Or you can simply delete the enemy that's bothering you. Anyway, back to Step of the Wind. So in addition to the disengage or dash action I just mentioned, when you make a melee attack against a creature on your turn, that creature can't make opportunity attacks against you for the rest of your turn. However, you can spend your key point there to take both disengage and dash action as a bonus action on your turn, and your jump distance is doubled for the turn. So in other words, if you're surrounded by enemies and you don't attack them all, you can still disengage and leave. And if you really need to book it, you can spend a key point, disengage, dash, and jump twice as far as before. That might be a bit much, and I also pinched this from Swashbuckler Rogue, but it does make us that skirmisher that we were supposed to be. So unarmored movement works the same as before. Again, didn't recreate the table, but you would see it go up at the same pace. 9th level was unchanged. 15th level, your jump distance is permanently tripled as if you were under the effect of the jump spell. If you use the Step of the Wind feature to double your jump distance, it is also applied to this feature, granting you a jump distance 6 times what it would be otherwise. Now that's just there for clarity. I would have hoped that it was assumed that that and Step of the Wind would stack, but I don't know that, so I've clarified it. As you get subclass, nothing there has changed, except I've made reference to something of a book that doesn't exist yet, because I might not ever finish it. But yeah, that's a thing that's coming up. Maybe. Anyway, I've added in the optional dedicated weapon feature. It's the same as it was normally, it just can't have the special property. And we'll ignore all of that. So deflect missiles, I haven't changed much, except that if you reduce the damage to 0, you can catch the missile if it is small enough for you to hold in one hand. You catch it, you can make a ranged attack with the weapon or piece of ammo you just caught as part of the same reaction. No key point cost required. That's the only thing that changes, and I'm not sure what's going on with that weird formatting there. Anyway, key fueled attack at level 4 basically does what it says on the tin. ASI is unchanged. Was tempted to add a few more, decided not to. Slow fall is unchanged here. I think at one point I changed it so it doesn't cost you a reaction, you just get it. But I can't remember. I thought I had done it here. Quick and healing is the same. Extra attack is the same. Key and power strikes and evasion are the same. Stillness of mind is just clarified. You can use your action to end one effect on yourself that is causing you to be charmed or frightened, regardless of the text of the triggering effect. In other words, if it says that you can only dodge or dash, it specifies that you can use stillness of mind instead. Purity of body is unchanged, as is tongue of the sun and moon. Diamond soul is done, like that's the same. Timeless body is mostly the same, except we added this. Additionally, when you take a short rest, you may recover 1 level of exhaustion. Easy done. Empty body, just reduce the key point by 1. The key point cost there by 1, so instead of 4 it costs 3. For the astral projection spell part, couldn't really justify dropping that because it's already the level of the spell -1, so that's not too bad. So Perfect Self, we've changed pretty drastically actually. Not so sure about this version because it is a fair bump to our AC. Your dexterity and wisdom scores increase by 4. Your maximum for those scores is now 24. Now, assuming you bomb rushed dex and wisdom like you would normally or previously, so they're both at 20. You hit level 20. Those go up to 24. So your AC goes from 20 to 24. And then on top of having your half proficiency bonus, that's 27. I think in another version I changed that a little bit. Still, it's a big improvement over before in terms of AC and also in terms of a capstone. But you know, the Tim Shaw special. But wait, there's more. As an action on your turn, you can draw all your expended ki back into yourself. You can only use this feature once per long rest. So basically, instead of rolling initiative and you get 4 of them back, you can spend an action to get all of them back. Okay, so again, we've just tried to reduce the key point cost of things. We changed the capstone. We made monks a little bit hardier, and we paid the mobile tax as well, which I forgot was actually still in there. Okay, so let's move on to our revised version 2. This is going to have the key system basically removed, but there's going to be fewer other changes from the original class, although a few will sneak in here and there. Our hit points are the same as they were in the Player's Handbook, so your D8, A plus con, 1d8 or 5. Armor is still none. We've changed weapons to simple and martial weapons without the two-handed or heavy property. Tools, saving throws, and skills are all the same like they were before. We're still traveling pretty light. We are looking at a short sword or a simple or martial weapon without the two-handed or heavy property, which is that one up here, a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack, and 10 darts. Our unarmored defense stays as it is in the original version. It's going to be that Dex and Wisdom modifier plus D10. Martial arts is basically unchanged. Again, this version has fewer changes to it, to the basic things. We're just getting rid of the major exception of the key for now. When we get into version 3, you'll see more of a fusion of these first two versions. But yeah, this is unchanged. So key, it mostly becomes fluff. It says something about the key save, which is still 8 plus proficiency bonus plus wisdom modifier. Flurry of blows just becomes a straight upgrade to martial arts. Patient defense is just a straight dodge as a bonus action. Whoops. Step of the Wind is disengage or dash as a bonus action on your turn, and your jump distance is permanently doubled, so you're always able to jump twice as far. Unarmored movement is the same. I haven't recreated the table, but you'll find that it's going to increase at the same pace as before, and the 9th level thing is also unchanged. Monastic tradition is same levels. Deflect missiles is the same as it was, except that the key point cost for throwing it back has been removed, because that's what we're doing here. The ability score improvement is the same as before. Slow fall is still the same. Extra attack is still the same. The stunning strike, we've made a bit of a change. When you roll a 20 on an attack with a melee weapon attack or unarmed strike, the target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or be stunned until the end of your next turn. Additionally, you can use this ability without rolling a 20 on a d20 a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus plus your wisdom modifier per long rest. We're taking out that key point cost, but we still want to be doing it fairly often, so we've got this fairly generous a number of times here. Because you're going to get the odd crit. You are throwing a lot of punches. You're going to crit eventually. Key empowered strikes is unchanged. Evasion is unchanged. Why would we change that? Stillness of mind is still clarified here because that needed to be done. Again, unarmored movement improvement is the same. Purity of body is the same. Tongue of the sun and moon, ignore that, is the same. Diamond soul is mostly the same. You get the proficiency in all saving throws. However, when you make the saving throw and fail, you can re-roll it and take the second result. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Again, it has a pretty low key point cost as it was, but when we're taking key out of it, proficiency bonus feels like it's probably enough, especially because that ends up being 6 times. I think even here it's already 4 or 5 times per long rest, and hopefully you're not failing that many saves if you have proficiency in all of them. Timeless body is the same old ribbony ribbon. Empty body is changed slightly. So the actual feature isn't changed. You can still be invisible for a minute with resistance to all damage but force. However, you can use it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Relatively generous for something that you could use because it was relatively cheap. Astral projection being as expensive as it was, however, you can only do once per long rest. And as before, you can't take any other creatures with you. And Perfect Self just has the dexterity and wisdom scores increasing by 4 to a maximum of 24, which has the same issues with it that it had in version 1. So that's kind of a problem. We might motor quickly through the monastic traditions. With the Way of Mercy, basically what we've done is we've taken, so Hand of Healing was probably the hardest, because it was something you were expected to do all the time. We changed it to, you can use this ability number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all uses of this feature each time you roll initiative. Which, with all of the things that have come out that rely on proficiency bonus, this one's kind of unprecedented. However, this is an ability that you're supposed to use all the time. So it makes sense that you're going to be able to use it all the time when we've taken the key point cost out. Hand of Harm we changed to once per turn, with that in mind. Physician's Touch is just a straight upgrade to Hands of Healing and Hands of Harm. Flurry of Healing and Harm. Basically, it's the same, but you can only use Hand of Harm once per turn still. So once per turn for Hand of Ultimate Mercy, instead of costing 5 key points, which is still not actually that expensive, considering that it also gets healed up a little bit. But again, like we've just changed it to, you can't use it again. It was like 5 key points. Anyway, so we'll move on to the Way of Shadow. I got a bit of fluff here that I left in there. So basically, we are using key to duplicate the effects of certain spells. So once per day each, we can use Darkness, Dark Vision, Pass Without Trace, and Silence, without material components. Again, it's just once per day. And Minor Illusion if you don't already know it. Shadow Step, I don't think had a key point cost anyway. So you just get that. Cloak of Shadows, you just get that. It's something you can really only use in dim light or darkness anyway. So you are invisible until you attack, cast a spell, or are in an area of bright light. So just if you step into the sunlight, it stops working randomly. Opportunist, I mean, doesn't feel like it should have cost key points. If it did, it doesn't now anyway. It's actually kind of a bad 17th level feature in my opinion. So Ascendant Dragon, yeah, well we've got that fluff, we're keeping that. Origin, Draconic Disciple, didn't really need removing key points because it wasn't really there. Maybe Draconic Presence had it, but we just changed that to once you finish a long rest, you can do that. Breath of the Dragon did have a key point cost. We just changed it to number of times equal to proficiency bonus. Other than that, I don't think we changed anything. Wings Unfold was just proficiency bonus, regaining all expended uses when you finish a long rest. That was a key point each time. So we've just saved a little bit there. So, Aspect of the Worm, we've got the whole thing being a number of times equal to proficiency bonus. You'll notice a lot of that. We're replacing key points with, proficiency bonus per long rest, once per long rest, stuff like that. Ascendant Aspect does the same thing. That's just whenever you actually do it. It's more or less. So this all seems tied to things like Breath of the Dragon and Aspect of the Worm, and you can use these as many times as you can use those features. So handy. Way of the Astral Self, we've got some fluff here, we'll ignore. So Way of the Astral Self, you could do it it has a 10-minute time limit. We kind of just took out anything, so you guess you can just keep doing it. Maybe you would consider changing that to proficiency bonus for all this stuff. I feel that might be a bit restrictive, unless you're like back-to-back combats for the day. I'd considered actually going through and changing that, but still. So yep, we're still no key points here. It's all tied into that Astral Self thing. It's the gimmick of the whole thing, so I don't know how much we should be limiting it. Anyway, we'll move on to Way of the Drunken Master, which we haven't really changed much of anything. Drunken Technique didn't have an extra key cost, so you can just do that. Tipsy Sway, well, Leap to Your Feet didn't have that. Redirect Attack may have, but we've stripped it. That it doesn't seem like it's good enough to cost one. Drunken's Luck, that did have key point cost, we changed that to proficiency bonus per long rest. And Intoxicated Frenzy is just always on, provided you attack different people with Flurry of Blows, you make up to 3 additional attacks. Now, to be in line with some of our changes on our version 1 and version 3, we would need to change some of the wording here so that it became a total of, so it would be 4 and then a total of 6, maybe. I'm not really sure, but that might need editing. Way of the 4 elements, we've just taken out the key point cost, so it scales. The other thing is that you get access to all of the elemental disciplines that you would have from your level, and you and the DM agreed to gate them behind progression, or something like that. Or you can just have all of them and go nuts. A lot of these are like proficiency bonus. There's no limit on this one, but it does scale. Proficiency bonus for all of these. Another proficiency bonus. Shape of the Flowing Water doesn't have a thing. Proficiency bonus for Sweeping Cinder Strike. Wall of Stone. A few of those I think I may have added, but I'm not 100% on that. Maybe I did it for something else, but did have like more in there because it was also pretty low on higher level things, so we fixed that as well. Kensei didn't really need much. A lot of these things aren't really good enough to justify a key point cost, so they don't anymore. Just trying to think. No, I think that was everything. Way of the Long Death, we had the same issue. The big change with Touch of Death is when you reduce a creature within 5 feet of you to 0 hit points, you gain temporary hit points equal to your Wisdom modifier plus your Monk level, minimum of 1 temporary hit point. This is the part we changed. Or the maximum hit points of the creature, whichever is lower. Stops you bag of rats problem. Hour of Reaping, we basically just left. If that had a key point cost, it doesn't anymore, obviously. So you can just do it whenever, I guess. Mastery of Death, that's once per long rest. There's no key points involved. Whoops. Touch of the Long Death, proficiency bonus per long rest. Open Hand, pretty much unchanged because Open Hand was a lot more bang for buck. Really the only thing that had key was maybe Wholeness of Body but probably not, I don't think, and Quivering Palm, and that was about it. Which we changed to being number of times equal to proficiency bonus per long rest. If I go through this again, I might change that to once per long rest, considering as you've got a week to trigger it, but anyway. Way of the Sun Soul actually needs a lot more help than some of the other subclasses. Maybe not as much as 4 Elements does, but still a fair few. I still feel like Radiant Sunbolt needs clarifying. It doesn't feel clear to me, but I didn't change it. Except for the fact that the thing where you could basically flurry of blows with the Sunbolts is proficiency bonus per long rest. Searing Arc Strike is proficiency bonus per long rest. Whoops. Searing Sunburst is just, yeah, you can just do it. That's kind of cool. And we had Sun Shield, which, yeah, it was something that you could do. Actually, I need to fix that so that it has a time limit. We're going to round out our discussion with a third revision, which is kind of a combination of the previous two. So we're leaving in the improvements with the things that we want. We're sort of doing away with the key point system entirely. And we are sort of adding a proficiency-based AC and another feature that I didn't list on my heading, but I think is pretty cool. Anyway, our hit points and our proficiencies and our equipment are the same as in version 1. So we'll skip to an armored defense. Where at first level, when wearing no armor and wielding a shield, the AC equals 10 plus dexterity mod plus proficiency bonus. Now, assuming that you were using a standard array or point buy, your dexterity modifier is probably 16. Your proficiency bonus at that point is +2. So considering that it was pretty easy to get an AC of 16 before, it's now a little bit lower. However, if it just stayed at 10 plus dex plus proficiency, it ends up being better. So at level 17, when your proficiency bonus becomes +6, your AC ends up being 21. So it starts off very slightly lower, but it starts off very slightly higher. But then we've got this next change, which is your AC equals the dexterity modifier plus proficiency bonus plus 1 of intelligence, charisma, or wisdom. This is to create some build diversity. We kind of want to, we want smart monks, we want charismatic monks, we just want characters that are a bit different. Different builds, more feat support, all that. So this is part of doing that. Martial arts is more or less unchanged from our version 1. We've got our improvised weapons and simple or martial weapon. We've got our D6 in place of normal damage. We've got our martial arts attack. We've got our improved martial arts and flurry of blows. This fluff that I just never got rid of because I was lazy. Whoops. Well, actually, I didn't need to do that. So we've got our key save, which is 8 plus proficiency bonus plus dexterity or wisdom modifier. So we go into the key things. Flurry of blows, again, a straight, just like version 2, a straight upgrade to martial arts. Patient defense is unchanged from version 1, it's a bonus action. Step of the wind is the same. Fancy footwork from Swashbuckler Rogue is on, plus the disengage, and your jump distance is permanently doubled. So it's sort of a combination of version 1 and version 2 here. Unarmored movement at second level, that's unchanged at this part. The vertical surfaces is unchanged. The 15th level is also unchanged. The monastic tradition, you commit yourself to a monastic tradition. Didn't have any examples, probably should have done that before. Dedicated weapon is the same as our version 1, where it just lacks the special property and you still need to be proficient with it. Deflect missiles is unchanged from version 1. You use your reaction to both deflect or catch, and if you catch it, you can throw it back. Key field attack. If you use a feature with a limited number of uses as part of your action on your turn, you can make one attack with an unarmed strike. We're taking away the key points. We have to do something like that for this particular option here. Ability and score improvements are unchanged. Slow fall removes the reaction, so it's just something that happens. Extra attack is unchanged. But one of the bigger changes we made was disrupting strike. When you roll a 20 on an attack with a melee weapon attack or unarmed strike, you can choose one of the following effects. The target must succeed on a strength saving throw or be restrained until the end of your next turn. They must succeed on a dex saving throw or be knocked prone, con or stunned as per normal. The target must succeed on an intelligence saving throw or their intelligence and charisma scores become 1 until the end of your next turn. Wisdom save or be charmed, similar to hypnotic, it's a one-person hypnotic pattern. And if they fail a charisma save, they are temporarily under the effect of the Bane spell till the end of your next turn. Additionally, we added this thing from version 2 where you can use this ability without rolling a 20 on a d20 a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus plus your wisdom modifier per long rest. So you need to have some wisdom in there. However, I did write that in before I added the intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. So if I were to actually publish this somewhere, it would be that, as with the key save DC actually. Key empowered strikes has been unchanged this entire time. Evasion has been unchanged this entire time. Stillness of mind is still the clarified version, just says you can do it as the action, even if the triggering effect says you have to use it for certain things. Purity of body is unchanged. Tongue of the Sun and Moon also. Diamond Soul. The proficiency save is the same for all of them. You get the thing from version 2 where you can make the save, you can reroll a failed saving throw, but you can only do it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Timeless Body is the same as version 1 because it didn't have a key point cost. It's just you can't be aged magically, and the new thing that we added, which when you take a short rest, you can recover 1 level of exhaustion if you have that. Empty Body is the same as it was in version 2, pretty much exactly. You can become invisible for 1 minute a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest, and you can use astral projection once per long rest without material components. And finally, at Perfect Self, your dexterity score and the score of your choice increases by 4, and your maximum for those scores is now 24. So this makes it so that it's not that crazy thing, or it wasn't necessarily that crazy thing that it was previously, where it was you got half your proficiency bonus and then another 4 on top of that. This is a little more sane, because more than likely you'd want to put that on your constitution. You might not put on your that mental ability score that you chose earlier. And that's the thing. It was kind of intended that you would keep that relatively low, so it would only be a small bump, because you could feel a little more comfortable taking feats or bumping con or doing whatever. This kind of just allows that. And that's 3 versions of Revised Monk, and I hope you enjoyed them. And I will see you at some point in the future. I'm sorry to add to the already fairly long video, talk about a first up attempt at something. I just forgot to do all of the normal YouTube stuff. If you like the video, why not subscribe? Might actually encourage me to do more of this so that I actually get better and they're actually good. Or you could flurry of blows that like, or more likely dislike button. Or why not use Tongue of the Sun and Moon, aka the comment section, to tell me how much of a colossal idiot I am. Either way, hopefully I'll catch you some other time at my table.